obviously I'm a horror story of what happens when you try to save a child's life.
Molly Ricky Hofschulte has been a child care provider since 1999, but her entire world changed when she laid 3-month-old Bryson down for a nap one fall afternoon.
October 27, 17, sudden infant death syndrome hit my house. I sent the infant check timer, first check. Something's wrong. I follow training, start CPR, immediately damning myself by losing my ability to prove to DHS how he was found, hence how he was laid down.
She was unable to resuscitate the infant. Molly's childcare was immediately shut down for an investigation, which she understood, but she said she found something troubling when looking over the report and statements from that day.
I read the statement and said, there's something wrong with this.
The document said the child had allegedly sustained serious injuries while in Molly's care, and that's why she was closed and under investigation.
I said, hey, I don't agree with the reason they suspended my license. I'm going to appeal this.
She appeared in front of an administrative law judge in November, and the judge ruled that the reason Molly's daycare had been closed should be rescinded. But something she didn't notice at the time was the judge's ruling was only a recommendation, and the DHS commissioner would send back a final decision on her appeal.
I'm thinking, great, we're going to up and run. DHS has to clear, this, but as soon as they read this judge's ruling, they're going to understand the moving parts here and that there wasn't foul play or anything harmful done to this child.
According to the coroner's report, the cause of death was sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. As a result, Molly was cleared by the Child Protection Agency and law enforcement of any wrongdoing. However, the Department of Human Services and Licensing wanted to wait for the toxicology report before giving her the green light.
We waited, and then the death certificate arrived, and it was clean, which meaning it said undecided. So we knew that toxicology was back and that undecided was the SIDS diagnosis.
But when she contacted licensing and DHS separately, she says each agency told her they were waiting to hear back from the other before moving forward with her case. Molly says this lasted from December into January. During this time, Molly received the DHS commissioner's findings of facts from her hearing with a set of modifications. One paragraph contained bolded words and strike-throughs, which changed a sentence to say, "There is reasonable suspicion that there is an imminent risk of harm to the health, safety, or rights of children in Molly's care," which was opposite of the judge's recommendation.
You go into a court and you expect for a judge to take everybody's statement and then rule, which they do, but you don't expect the other party to have an immunity card.
Feeling like she was at a loss, Molly decided to go another route.
It took an SOS email to every legislator that we have, and the only one that answered me was Carla Nelson.
The thing that I was concerned about is that there seemed to be a shifting, like, well, we're waiting for this government agency to do this, or they would say, no, we're waiting for this government agency to do that. So it was navigating through the myriad of licensing jurisdictions to get to an answer.
Nelson contacted DHS herself and expedited Molly's case. Molly says after a few more weeks of delayed meetings, she was finally able to speak with DHS and work things out. She reopened her child care on February 2nd. But Molly was closed for nearly 3.5 months, leaving 12 kids and their families without child care.
Can you imagine the trauma of the daycare provider, but what about the other parents who had children who suddenly didn't have a place to go, and they didn't know when they were going to be able to resume getting child care at this facility?
We reached out to the Department of Human Services and asked about the situation and the process. Inspector General Carolyn Ham said in part, "We acknowledge that the complex system of state and county licensing, child protection, and law enforcement responsibilities can be difficult for providers to manage, and that it can be especially challenging in the wake of a tragedy. We apologize for the errors we have made in documentation and have corrected them." And as far as the judge's ruling, the Department of Human Services says the commissioner's final order regarding the temporary immediate suspension specifically stated there was no legal conclusion that the violations caused or contributed to the infant's death. DHS has not made any conclusion that Miss Ricky Hofschulte was responsible for the infant's death. Molly continues to care for children, but says the experience with the state has scarred her.
We have to train for this, but you can't train for the little things that this teaches you: how to live in your house again, how to watch children nap. And it doesn't help you learn how to deal with a family who's in excruciating pain.
His name is Bryson John Schmidt. He mattered. I couldn't save him. With great power comes great responsibility. DHS has shown their power is too great to handle that responsibility, and you have to step in.